Haribol, Namaste, and welcome again to another chapter of Krishna book reading. We will continue on our chapter 3 of the birth of Lord Krishna and read some more of the wonderful Krishna book. But right now we are going to get into some hearing and chanting of Krishna's names, so feel free to join in. Offer my respects to all of you and to my spiritual teacher. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Gurave Shrimate Siddhaswamrupananda Shrimate Siddhaswamrupananda Paramahamsa-iti Raja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Advaita Gadadhara Srivasudeva Bhakta-vrinda Haribol Nitai Gaur Nitai Gaur Haribol Haribol Nitai Gaur Nitai Gaur Haribol. So we are going to continue with this wonderful reading of the Krishna's pastimes. And let's see here. sure I'm on the right page. Yeah. So, in the story, Krishna had appeared before Devaki and Vasudeva in the forearm form, the forearm Vishnu form with the full paraphernalia, and I will actually post a picture on this particular video in the YouTube channel with the picture before he takes on a form of the baby Krishna. And the prayers were given by Vasudeva, who was praying about the different forms of the demigods who represent the maintenance and the creation, the maintenance, and the destruction of the universe. And Devaki is now praying, takes over and does her own prayers to Krishna. After this prayer of Vasudeva, Devaki, the mother of Krishna, offered her prayers. She was very frightened because of her brother's atrocities. Excuse me. Devaki said, "My dear Lord, your eternal forms like Narayan, Lord Rama, Shesha, Varaha, Nrsimha, Vamana, Baladev, and millions of similar incarnations emanating from Vishnu are described in the Vedic literature as original. Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, and from which all expansions and incarnations come from. When Krishna wants to incarnate as a particular form, whether it's Lord Nrsimhadev or Vamana, Varaha, the boar incarnation, Nrsimha, half man, half lion, he comes and incarnates through the Vishnu expansion. That's why it says similar incarnations emanating from Vishnu are described in the Vedic literature as original. You are original because all your forms as incarnations are outside of this material creation. Your form was existing before this cosmic manifestation was created. Your forms are eternal and all-pervading. They are self-effulgent, changeless, and uncontaminated by the material qualities. Such eternal forms are ever cognizant and full of bliss. They are situated in transcendental goodness and are always engaged in different pastimes. You are not limited to a particular form only. All such transcendental eternal forms are self-sufficient. I can understand that you are the Supreme Lord Vishnu. After many millions of years, when Lord Brahma comes to the end of his life, the annihilation of the cosmic manifestation takes place. Now, the universe, and every universe that emanates from the pores of Mahavishnu, and there are many universes, not just ours, but many other universes, and they all have a Lord Brahma, a post that a living entity will take on to be the creator demigod of the particular universe. And Lord Brahma said that has an extremely long, by our standards, we live to be maybe 100 years old in this particular form. And Lord Brahma, as the Lord Brahma said, I think the calculation is 311,440,000,000 years. That's like inconceivable amount of time when we think of like, wow, what's been since like 2021, can we even calculate the lifetime of Lord Brahma at 311,040,000,000 years? It's just something that we can't even imagine. At that time, the five elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, and ether, enter into the Mahat Tattva. The Mahat Tattva again enters by the force of time into the non-manifested total material energy. The total material energy enters into the energetic pradhana, and the pradhana enters into you. Therefore, after the annihilation of the whole cosmic manifestation, You alone remain with your transcendental name, form, quality, and paraphernalia. My Lord, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you because you are the director of the unmanifested total energy and the ultimate reservoir of the material energy. My Lord, the whole cosmic manifestation is under the influence of time, beginning from the moment up to the duration of the year. All act under your direction. You are the original director of everything and the reservoir of all potent energies. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the source of everything. So it's not very difficult to be the source of everything, to be able to do these things that we were talking about in our last class. Be present in every atom, or being present in the heart of every living entity, directing as expansions, and at the same time being present in the supreme form as Krishna in the spiritual world, engaging in pastimes with his loving devotees, and also being expanded as different Vishnu forms in the spiritual world to different spiritual planets where different devotees serve Krishna in the form of Vishnu, different Vishnus. It's inconceivable by the human mind. Therefore, my Lord, I request you to save me from the cruel hands of the son of Ugrasena Kamsa. I am praying to your lordship to please rescue me from this fearful condition, because you are always ready to give protection to your servitors. The Lord has confirmed this statement in the Bhagavad Gita by assuring Arjuna, you may declare to the world, my devotee shall never be vanquished. While thus praying to the Lord for rescue, Mother Devaki expressed her motherly affection. I understand that this transcendental form is generally perceived in meditation by the great sages, but I am still afraid, because as soon as Kamsa understands that you have appeared, he might harm you. So I request for the time being you become invisible to our material eyes. In other words, she requested the Lord to assume the form of an ordinary child. My only cause of fear for my brother Kamsa is due to your appearance. My Lord Madhusudan, Kamsa may know that you are already born. Therefore I request you to conceal this four-armed form of your lordship, which holds the four symbols of Vishnu, namely the conch shell, the disc, the club, and the lotus flower. My dear Lord, at the end of the annihilation of the cosmic manifestation, you put the whole universe within your abdomen. Still, by your unalloyed mercy, you have appeared in my womb. I am surprised that you imitate the activities of ordinary human beings just to please your devotee. On hearing the prayers of Devaki, the Lord replied, my dear mother, in the millennium of Svayambhuva Manu. Manu is the sort of the head progenitor of the universe. It's also a position. My father Vasudeva was living as one of the Prajapatis. These are progenitors who help populate the universe. And his name at that time was Sutapa, and you were his wife Krishna. At that time, when Lord Brahma was desiring to increase the population, he requested you to generate offspring. You controlled your senses and performed severe austerities. By practicing the breathing exercise of the yoga system, both you and your husband could tolerate all the influences of the material laws, the rainy season, the onslaught of the wind, and the scorching heat of the sunshine. You also executed all religious principles. In this way, you were able to cleanse your heart and control the influence of material law. In executing your austerity, you used to eat only the leaves of the tree which fell to the ground. Then with steady mind and controlled sex drive, you worshipped me, desiring some wonderful benediction for me. Both of you practiced severe austerities for 12,000 years by the calculations of the demigods. So there's a lot to be said here. There are in Vedic thought, There are different ages, just like there are different seasons. And there's the Satya Yuga. So I'm going to try to get all the right words for it. Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and the Kali Yuga, which we currently are in. And Satya Yuga is a very wonderful spiritual time. People are very elevated. They live very long periods of life. They practice great sacrifices, and from that point in time, and then it's a long time. It's a very, very long time. Several millions of years in that yuga. And with each age or each yuga, the quality, the consciousness gets more and more polluted, so that the sacrifices change and the qualities of people change, and the length of their life also change. So in the age of Kali Yuga, which is 440,000, I believe 440,000, 435,000, something like that, years, that Kali Yuga, it's called the Iron Age, the age of quarrel, chaos, and confusion. And we're only like over 5,000 years into that, and we can see already chaos, quarrel, and confusion. We can't even imagine how bad it will get. But here Lord Brahma is talking about, Devaki is praying to Krishna, and Krishna is responding that there was a time when they, in a previous life, Devaki and Vasudeva were other devotees in the Satya Yuga, and they served Krishna, and they practiced yoga, austerities, and meditation, and controlled sex drive. That's so unheard. People can't even sit still in this day and age, and to control your sex drive, that's actually considered to be a bad thing. Like, oh, control my sex drive, why would I want to do that? That's actually the yoga way. That's the Vedic way, is to basically control your senses, to control your mind and control your sex drive in this age, and practice kirtan. And kirtan meditation is actually the prescribed Sankirtan yajna, is what they call it, the sacrifice of the Kali Yuga, as presented by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the practice of hearing and chanting Krishna's names to achieve self-realization. So, we were reading, you also executed religious principles in this way. Then with steady mind and controlled sex drive, you worshipped me, desiring some wonderful benediction from me. Both of you practiced severe austerities for 12,000 years. So people lived to be very, I think it was something like 100,000 years. They lived to be that long. But in that age, it was a very wonderful time. People were very spiritual. People practiced austerities and meditation, and that's what they did, and that's what they enjoyed. So for 12,000 years, we think, 12,000 years, what is that? How can you practice austerities for 12,000 years? You're only alive for 100 years. Well, Kali Yuga is a different age. We can't sit still. That's why we're given a different form of meditation. We don't have to go out to the forest and meditate for long periods of time. We don't have to practice severe austerities. We just hear and chant Krishna's names, which is really wonderful. It's an easy practice because we're easily deluded, we're easily distracted in this age, and so we need something that's very simple to do, which is the hearing and chanting of Krishna's names. But yet, a lot of people don't even want to do that. Chant God's names? What's that? During that time, your mind was always absorbed in me. You were executing devotional service and always thinking of me within your heart. I was very much pleased with you. O sinless mother, your heart is therefore always pure. At that time, also, I appeared before you in this form just to fulfill your desire, and I asked you to ask whatever you desired. At that time, you wished to have me born as your son. Although you saw me personally, instead of asking for your complete liberation from the material bondage under the influence of my energy, you asked me to become your son. In other words, the Lord selected his mother and father, namely Prishni and Sutapa. specifically to appear in the material world. Whenever the Lord comes as a human being, he must have someone as a mother and father. So he selected Prishni and Sutaba perpetually as his mother and father. And on account of this, both Prishni and Sutaba could not ask the Lord for liberation. Liberation is not so important as the transcendental loving service of the Lord. There are a lot of religious systems that liberation is the goal, or elevation, as in Christianity, say, where people are trying to obtain salvation or liberation from their sins. But oftentimes it's just elevation. In other words, they want to go to heaven, so therefore they pray to have their sins relieved so they can go to heaven, which is elevation, not salvation. So it's not even liberation. But liberation, they're saying here, is not really as important. The devotee doesn't really care whether they are liberated or not. It's only if they can serve the Supreme Lord in loving service. So if they go to heaven or if they go to hell, they don't really care. They just care to be always remembering Krishna, always engaged in their service, wherever they might be. So they're not even really interested in going into the spiritual world or going to heavenly planets or anything like that. The Lord could have awarded Prishni and Sutaba immediate liberation, but he preferred to keep them within this material world for his different appearances, as will be explained in the following verses. On receiving the benediction from the Lord to become his father and mother, both Prishni and Sutaba returned from the activities of austerity and lived as husband and wife in order to beget a child who was the Supreme Lord himself. In due course of time, Prishni became pregnant and gave birth to the child. The Lord spoke to Devaki and Vasudeva. At that time, my name was Prishni-garbha. And this is also in the Srimad Bhagavatam, actually, the story. In the next millennium, you took birth as Aditi and Kashyapa, and I became your child of the name Upendra. At that time, my form was just like a dwarf, and for this reason I was known as Vamanadev, another story of an incarnation of Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavatam of the 9th canto. I gave you the benediction that I would take the birth as your son 3 times. The first time I was known as Prishni-garbha, born of Prishni and Sutaba. The next birth I was Upendra, born of Aditi and Kashyapa. And now for the 3rd time I am born as Krishna, from you, Devaki and Vasudeva. I appeared in this Vishnu form just to convince you that I am the same Supreme Personality of Godhead again taken birth. I could have just appeared just like an ordinary child, but in that way you would not believe that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, had taken birth in your womb. My dear father and mother, you have therefore raised me many times as your child with great affection and love, and I am therefore very pleased and obliged to you. And I assure you that this time you shall go back home, back to Godhead, on account of your perfection in your mission. I know that you are very concerned about me and afraid of Kamsa. Therefore, I order you to take me immediately to Gokula and replace me with a daughter who has just been born to Yashoda. Having spoken thus, in the presence of his father and mother, the Lord turned himself into an ordinary child and remained silent. Being ordered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva attempted to take his son from the delivery room, and exactly at that time, a daughter was born of Nanda and Yashoda. She was Yoga Maya, the internal potency of the Lord. By the influence of this internal potency, Yoga Maya, all the residents of the Kamsa palace, especially the doorkeepers, were overwhelmed with deep sleep, and all the palace doors opened, although they were barred and shackled with iron chains. The night was very dark, but as soon as Vasudeva took Krishna on his lap and went out, he could see everything just as in the sunlight. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that Krishna is just like the sunlight, and wherever there is Krishna, the illusory energy, which is compared to darkness, cannot remain. When Vasudeva was carrying Krishna, the darkness of the night disappeared. All the prison doors automatically opened. At the same time, there was a thunder in the sky and severe rainfall. While Vasudeva was carrying his son Krishna in the falling rain, Lord Shesha shape of a serpent spread his hood over the head of Vasudeva so that he would not be hampered by the rainfall. So I have a video in a previous thing. I put the picture of this on the video, so you can go back and look at the videos I have on my YouTube channel. You'll see some of the stories in the picture. Vasudeva came unto the bank of the Jamuna and saw that the water of the Jamuna was roaring with waves and that the whole span was full of foam. Still, in that furious feature, the river gave passage to Vasudeva to cross, just as the great Indian Ocean gave path to Lord Rama when he was bridging over the gulf. In this way, Vasudeva crossed the river Jamuna. On the other side, he went to the place of Nanda Maharaj, situated in Gokula, where he saw that all the cowherd men were fast asleep. He took the opportunity of silently entering into the house of Yashoda, and without difficulty he replaced his son, taking away the baby girl newly born in the house of Yashoda. Then, after entering the house very silently and exchanging the boy with the girl, he returned to the prison of Kamsa and silently put the girl on the lap of Devaki. He again clamped the shackles on himself so that Kamsa could not recognize that so many things had happened. Mother Yashoda understood that a child was born of her, but because she was very tired from the labor of childbirth, she was fast asleep. When she awoke, she could not remember whether she had given birth to a male or female child. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 3rd chapter of Krishna, Birth of Lord Krishna. So, we will continue chapter 4 in the next video, which is called Kamsa Begins His Persecutions. So a lot of really exciting things are going to start happening now that Krishna has been switched with Subhadra, who is the sister of Krishna. Switched, and she's also actually an incarnation of the Yogamaya energy in the material world known as Durga. And we will get to that story in that next video. So we will do some more kirtan now that we're done with this chapter. If you have any questions in particular about any of the philosophy or the story, feel free to message me correctly, or you can make comments in the YouTube channel, and let's chant some more. Haribo, Nitago, Nitago, Haribo, Nitago, Nitago, Haribo, Haribo, Nitago. Haribo, thank you so much for joining in on this class, and as always, please share, subscribe, and like, and let's get the Krishna Katha spread out there in the world. Thank you. Namaste.